That was
There you go. Here we go. Recording in three, two, and one. Hey, everybody. So, this is a special episode, episode 177.
Big 177. I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Jeffrey with your murder. Welcome to another week of the highs and lows, the ups and downs, the good and the bad, and the nerd and the murd. So, we're doing this episode in an effort to give our fans a peek into the exclusive content on our Patreon. That we feature, and you can find there. Zig picked one of his nerdery topics from there, and I chose one of our recent murdery topics. They're exclusive to our patrons. So just wanted to give everybody just kind of a peek into that exclusive episodes you can get. We've got 21 exclusives out there, if I recall correctly. Um,
Yeah.
so if
We
you're,
may have like 23 at the time of 22 or 23 by the time this airs.
yeah, yeah, that's true. So just kind of wanted to give everybody a peek behind the curtain on that. If you're looking for extra nerdery or extra murdery, you can get all those episodes. Plus, if you do become a patron on our Patreon, you get episodes as soon as they're ready for release. So
Hmm.
weeks and weeks and weeks ahead of everybody else.
Yes.
Um, so do look into that if you're interested. For our patrons that are listening, we do apologize that you've heard these topics before,
Yeah.
um, but um, but just wanted to give everybody a peek on that. So, Zig, I'll let you take over with your nerdery topic, nerdery side of the
Why, thank you.
house.
Why, thank you so much. Um, so this is actually a truncated uh selection of our Patreon. Uh, we did one about teen sex comedies. What a teen sex comedy is comedy about young people uh exploring relationships and being adults and what that's about. And
And these were real big in the 80s,
oh my God, they were
real big.
huge, huge. And some of them were very sophomoric, uh, and some of them were pretty serious, dealt with some serious topics. I actually picked one of each from that list because I think we did five, maybe we did six.
Five or
I only
six, yeah.
grabbed, yeah, I I only grabbed two, but they were the two that honestly kind of got slept on a little bit. Not a lot of people saw them. Um, they are The Last American Virgin and The Joy of Sex. So, what teen sex comedies are is they're coming of age. Um, they got a lot of flack because it portrays teenagers in more adult situations. It was a different time, um, and it's all adults in the films. There's no it's all make believe.
There were, and a lot of these, to be honest, really couldn't be done today because of cancel culture. Um,
Well, okay, so they made cock blockers, and I thought recently, or blockers,
hmm
which was more from the parents' side of things.
hmm
And and I thought they did a really good job. They really threaded the needle with that. You just kids are gonna do what kids are gonna do.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Kids are gonna do what kids are gonna do.
And I loved these movies in the 80s. I mean, because you're not covering all of them as you said, but I mean, like Porky's. Porky's was
Uh-huh.
hysterical,
Yep.
hysterical.
Porky's is still funny. It's still
Yes,
funny.
yes. Done in the set in the 50s,
Uh,
60s,
Early 60s.
early 60s. I couldn't
Yeah,
remember
it's
if it's
set in the
50s or
early 60s,
60s.
but it was made in the early 80s.
Yes, yes. And I mean, oh my God, the scene in that with the principal talking to the coaches and Miss Ballbreaker. Oh, that's
So
that
funny.
that's almost pee on
And
yourself funny.
everyone in the room is trying so hard not to laugh.
Oh, I know. And it's just, oh my God, it's so funny. These were favorites of mine in the 80s watching these type of movies. I watched a whole bunch of them and and it was one of those things where it was kind of like, am I supposed to be watching
Am I
this?
supposed to be watching this? Yes. Yes, actually you are because they also dealt with some fairly tough issues. It's like, man, you need to, this is not something you need to be, playing around with. You need to take these things kind of seriously, even though they were comedies.
Hmm.
And we'll get into that again with first film, The Last American Virgin, which is, in my opinion, probably the best um, of these because it deals with very serious subjects and and very funny subjects all at the same time.
And am I
And
rem am I remembering wrong? What's his name from? He's no longer on there, but Grey's Anatomy. Patrick
Dempsey,
Dempsey. Didn't he do two or three
yes,
in the 80s?
yes,
I thought so.
yeah. Can't Buy Me Love being one of them.
There we go. Yeah.
Um, that's the first one I can think of. He did some other stuff too. And God, I loved him as Meyer Lansky in Mobsters. Patrick Dempsey's he's really incredible, and it just he always was portrayed sort of in the '80s as kind of the geeky character.
Yeah.
But he played with a lot of heart. Can I buy me
Kerry
love?
Russell from The Americans also did one called 8 Days a Week, which was pretty good. I enjoyed that one.
Whoa, hold on. Pause. Pause.
Yeah, and Kerry Russell did one called 8 Days a Week, which is actually pretty funny.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I enjoyed that one with her, her geeky neighbor and just the hilarity that ensues from that. But yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you with all that. These are just these are fun movies. I've always enjoyed them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They, I again, I hate the title teen sex comedies. It's like, what the hell are they talking about? It's like it's a genre. Um, there really isn't another expression for it. It's they're coming of age, but it's a particular subset of it. In this case, we're going to talk about The Last American Virgin. It is a 1982 American coming of age sex comedy film written and directed by Boaz Davidson and starring Lawrence Monason, Diane Franklin, Steve Anton, Joe Rubo, and Louisa Moritz. Uh, it was a remake of a 1978 Israeli film, and it follows a Los Angeles high school student who, while attempting to lose his virginity, falls in love with one of his female classmates as she begins dating his rebellious best friend. Now, after the success of the original film and its sequels in in Israel, Davidson reteamed with producers Golden Globus to attempt to recreate the same success in the United States. Uh, though the film's plot and characters remain largely the same, the setting was updated from the 1950s Israel to the then present day suburbs of Los Angeles in the 1980s. The soundtrack, a major facet of both films, was also updated from the original Golden Oldies to more contemporary, well, they say new wave rock. It was actually a lot of the stuff that was going on in 1982. It was released in that summer. The Last American Virgin received mixed reviews from critics, with some noting its nuanced portrayal of teenagers and others deriding it for its crude sexual humor. In the years since its release, the film has been noted for its downbeat conclusion and has acquired a cult following. Um, the film is a remake of the Israeli film Lemon Popsicle, which featured a similar plot. Lemon Popsicle had been produced by Yoram Globus and Menachem Golan, and it had then recently acquired the American film distribution company Canon Films. Boaz Davidson, Menachem Golan, and Yoram Globus developed the project, and then they retooled some of the elements to appeal to an American audience. Um, principal photography began in late 1981 in Los Angeles and Malibu. Birmingham High School and Reseda High School served as the principal locations for the school sequences. The same Reseda High School from Karate Kid.
Oh, I didn't know
Approximate,
that. I didn't
yeah,
remember that.
yeah, it's Reseda. Approximately 70% of the film was shot using handheld cameras. Filming was complete in early 1982 with some additional photography occurring in New York City. Um, there are some elements in this film that are still fairly Israeli. When he goes and visits, when Gary goes and visits Diane in the hospital, he brings her a bag of oranges and a small conifer tree, almost like a small Christmas tree. We don't do that here. You just bring people flowers. But in the Middle East, when you bring something like that, that's a sign of you're getting better, new life, growth. Plus, everybody needs vitamin C.
True.
It's very well. It's also Ashkenazi bringing fruit. Uh, but so the story basically is it's the Los Angeles high school student Gary works after school as a pizza delivery boy for Pink Pizza. So he has this station wagon that's painted pink that he runs around town in. Um, and nobody ever says anything about it because he delivers pizza. Everybody knows what he does. His best friends are Rick, who is who's a slick talking ladies man, and David, he's a little overweight. But they go to the soda shop, and Gary notices Karen, and a new student has just moved to the area, along with her new best friend Rose. Gary instantly falls in love with Karen. Afterwards, Gary meets up with Rick and David in the same shop, and the three boys pick up three girls with the false promise of offering them cocaine. So Gary's parents are out. They bring these three girls back. They don't have any cocaine. So what they do is they take sweet and low and they chop it up into little lines, and the girls snort it and proceed to basically have a party. Gary's parents come home, and um, the boys run out with these girls that they're topless. It's it's kind of crazy, and Gary gets in a lot of trouble. Um, as that goes on, they run into other circumstances. They run into this woman who's married to this longshoreman, who is sexually frustrated. So she invites the boys back to basically take turns. This is an older woman. And then they get caught by the husband. They go to see a prostitute and they get crabs. Uh, and the whole time you've got this soundtrack playing in the back, which was basically contemporary music of the day. I'd like to talk about that a little bit. Let me just go through what we've got. Do 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 da 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 by the Police. Just Once by Greg Ingram and Quincy Jones. Are You Ready for the Sex Girls by the Gleaming Spires. That's the Way I Like It by Casey and the Sunshine Band, which was a little bit older at the time. Love Action by the Human League. Oh No by the Commodores. I Know What Boys Like by the Waitresses. In the Flesh by Blondie. Open Arms by Journey, which is why this movie is hard to find. Keep on Loving You by REO Speedwagon. Since You Were Gone by the Cars. Shake It Up by the Cars. Granada by Los Three Fabulous Paraguayos. I Will Follow by U2. Better Luck Next Time, by Oingo Boingo. Whip It by Devo, and Zero Hour by the Plimsouls. I do not have the entire movie in YouTube. This movie pops up every once in a while. When it pops up, you should watch it. Um, Again, it's early 1980s. Um, it's fairly sexually explicit. They talk about drug use, although I don't think a whole lot of drug use happens. I think they smoke a little weed, which is not even illegal in most places anymore. Because the cocaine is actually fake. But it's about these boys who are trying to become men. And unfortunately, Gary is the only one who understands what that means. Um, David ends up uh, impregnating um, Karen, and Gary helps her get it taken care of, quote unquote. and nurses her back to health. This is where Open Arms is playing. And he meets up with her at a party later on. And when he gets to the party, he walks into the kitchen and she's there kissing on David, um, who had basically shined her on when she told him she was in trouble. It's a very serious topic, um, but it is handled deftly. They also did the same thing in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
I had that to mention. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think they do it. I think they take care of the whole process better in Last American Virgin. Again, except for the scene where he walks in and brings her a bag of oranges in a plant. Um, but he's just trying to be sweet. He really cares about Karen. Um, which is why he's really not interested in the other girls. He's just going along with it because David and his other friend try to get him to go along. Um, I did include the final scene, which has got the closing. And again, this movie's 40 something years old, so I'm gonna give this away. You got the Plimsolls 0 Hour playing in this party, which is a great tune. You should go listen to it. Gary walks in, talks to his can't remember the other friend's name. All of a sudden, I am so sorry. Um,
But the friend.
yeah, yeah. Rick. Rick. So he talks to Gary talks to Rick, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, I think she's in the kitchen." So he's going to go talk to her, and he's all dressed up and he looks great. He walks in the kitchen door, he looks over, and he sees David's back, and David kind of turns and he's kissing on Karen. Karen looks over David's shoulder and just stares at Gary. Cue Just Once by Gregory Ingram starts playing. David stares at her, gets real wide eyed, turns around, walks out, goes and gets in his car. He is driving down the road. Tears start streaming down his eyes. Fade to black, and the credits roll. They do not stop the song. They just roll that whole song through that. Brilliant. That I have in our playlist. You guys can go see it right now. But again, it's because of the Journey song. Generally, that was the same problem they had with heavy metal. They couldn't get the rights to the Journey song, which is why it wasn't released on video for so long. Last American Virgin, you can get on video, or you could, because I had a videotape of it that I basically wore out. Right now, it's not available for streaming or on YouTube. It will pop up probably about the time that this episode airs. If you see it available, watch it then.
Well, you're talking about not available for free because
Yeah, I think you can buy it.
yeah, I'm looking at Amazon right now, and yeah, it's available on Blu-ray. Interesting. They do not have it streaming.
Yeah, it won't be available streaming. Um, and then every 6 months, months or so, it will pop up for about a month, and then it's gone again. Um, and you can't even buy it for streaming because I think it has to do with the rights for the music, and you can't take the music out because it's integral to how that film flows. Um, eh, which makes sense. Most of these films had really, really great contemporary soundtracks. Um, the big problem, hold on.
The big problem, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the big problem with a lot of these is the rights issues, because bands break up or members leave bands and they don't readily give permissions, which is why you can get something like this on video, but you can't necessarily get it for streaming. But again, it pops up every once in a while, and it was fairly underground. It didn't do really well, which is weird because Lemon Popsicle was like the biggest film in Israel. in the 70s. They made like 5 sequels of it, and they basically just follow Gary's life as he grows up and becomes an adult. Um, but yeah, that's about it for Last American Virgin. Other than get out there and watch it, I do have some clips. They're pretty funny. And again, I've got that last scene, which is really poignant. And they deal with some serious subjects, but they also deal with some pretty funny subjects as well. The next film in our list is The Joy of Sex, sometimes referred to as the National Lampoon's Joy of Sex. It is a 1984 American sex comedy film directed by Martha Coolidge. It was written by Kathleen Rowell and J.J. Slater, or Salter, sorry. It's based on the sex manual by Alex Comfort. um, Basically, Leslie Hindenburg has just entered her senior year of high school. She visits her doctor to have a mole examined, but she mistakenly comes to believe she only has 6 weeks to live and goes about trying to lose her virginity. However, it's difficult for her to accomplish her goals, being that her father is the school's phys ed teacher. The boys are afraid to date the coach's daughter. Alan Holt is a teenager whose friends brag about their sexual encounters, and he is rather frustrated as he cannot stop thinking about sex and attempts to lose his virginity in any way possible. Um, so these two are moving at each other at a very, very slow rate throughout this film. Paramount Pictures paid a great amount of money to secure the rights to Alex Comfort's sex manual, just so they could use the title, which they found to be highly commercial. In 1978, they hired Charles Grodin to write a script telling him the movie could be about anything. Grodin decided to use this exact situation as the premise. A Hollywood writer struggles to write a script based on a sex manual after a big studio acquires the rights. When he finished his first draft, Paramount Pictures did not like it. Grodin finally managed to get his screenplay greenlit by MGM in 1985 as Movers and Shakers. So if you ever seen Movers and Shakers, it was originally supposed to be The Joy of Sex. The sex manual is now called Love and Sex. According to the book Wired, John Belushi was supposed to appear in this movie, but he died before filming began. In her biography, My Mother Was Nuts, Penny Marshall states she was slated to direct, which would have been her first feature film, with a script by John Hughes, which would have been his first screen adaptation of a script. He ended up doing John Hughes. Animal House wasn't him. It was Vacation. National Lampoon's Vacation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That was his first. It was developed by a story that he did called Vacation 58. Martha Coolidge was fired from the movie for cutting many scenes of gratuitous nudity, but declined an opportunity to have her directing credit appear as Alan Smithy. National Lampoon's producer Marty Simons claimed to have paid $250,000 to remove the National Lampoon's name from the project. Their possible disassociation surfaced in a March newsletter to the company shareholders publicizing. Chairman Marty Simons said in a phone interview Wednesday that the movie may have nothing to do with, or we have nothing to do with the quality of this picture. We simply don't like to take credit or responsibility for a picture that we had nothing to do with. Simons is officially titled as executive producer on The Joy of Sex, but his active participation ended when the original Joy of Sex project, including screenwriter John Hughes and director Bill Norton, collapsed. The film was given a theatrical release in the United States by Paramount Pictures in August of 1984. It grossed $4.5 million at the box office. The film was given release on VHS by Paramount in the 1980s. To date, the film has still not been officially released on DVD. Eleanor Manica of All Movies Guide has nothing but disdain for the film. Check this out. The abysmal teen sex comedy Joy of Sex is stripped down to just sex in every line and in every joke, except where other bodily functions come into play. Producer Frank Konigsberg. Paramount was running out of options on Alex Comfort's book. They had 4 months to start principal photography. They came to me and asked me to do it. They knew that in television, you do things quickly. We threw together a script. They wanted me to use director Martha Coolidge, who just made Valley Girls. And it was a job. We just had to get it done. I don't think it was a successful movie at all. It was awful. Martha Coolidge hated it, and I hated it. Um, Martha Coolidge said that Paramount insisted on topless girls running down the hall because they thought the formula demanded it, and it was totally gratuitous. So she pulled that out of the film. She filmed it. She kind of pulled it out of the film. But they used it as an ad piece. So the ad, the one pager, of basically girls in their underpants running down a hallway being chased was put up in movie theaters. That scene doesn't happen in the movie. Um, Also, they had a certain amount of money for the music score, but it ended up going to basically Hollywood writers instead. So the music in this is not great. It's okay, but compared to Porky's, which had that early '60s vibe, or Last American Virgin, which was, you know, top chart contemporary music, you know, especially portraying that period of time, late 1981, early 1982. Um, this thing could have been awesome. Um, I don't think it's necessarily a bad film. It is a funny film, and in the end, the two main characters who are basically colliding, um, end up having a relationship. You know, it's not just about sex. It's about learning adult relationships and not listening to your friends who don't know shit. I That is the one scene that seems to play out in all of these movies. The 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 friend who knows everything about, sex and love, and they're full of shit. And there's always a comeuppance scene. It happens at Ridgemont High with Phoebe Cates. It happens with Damone in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It happens with David in The Last American Virgin. Um, you don't get that scene in this. Um, the the friends are just running around being crazy. Keep in mind, this also takes place in the same venue that Fast Times at Ridgemont High happened, which was based on an expose that Cameron Crowe wrote when he was still very young. He looked young because he was young. He wasn't as young as a high school student, but he was young enough to pass for one.
Hmm.
And he went in and did this expose. Everything that happens in Fast Times at Ridgemont High happened in real life in these suburbs in and around LA. It was
Well, and
crazy.
that's one of the things with him. He has movies that he takes real life experiences
Mhm.
and makes. Perfect example of that is oh, I've just lost the name of the movie. The one about the traveling band. Um,
Oh, Almost Famous.
Almost Famous. That's taken directly from his tour with bands as he was a very young writer for Rolling
Yeah,
Stone,
yeah,
and
like
it's actually an amalgam.
16.
Yeah, it's a combination of a whole bunch of different bands that he toured around with that he merged into one for
Yes,
Almost Famous.
yes, including the Allman Brothers.
Yes,
Good God, how many drugs do you have to do to get kicked out of the
right.
Allman Brothers? Think about that. It's like, yeah. um, it's insane. It's crazy. Um, but yeah, I there is a scene in The Joy of Sex which makes me laugh every time because part of me is still a 10-year-old boy that thinks that that's funny. The Order of the Blue Flame. They basically all eat really, really gaseous things. They get in a car, they throw their butts up in the air, and they light their farts. It happens at a drive-in. Everybody's disgusted by it except for these guys. It's 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 still funny to me that scene is in one of the scenes that I portrayed. I believe in our YouTube playlist, I've got this whole movie. Um, no one's fighting over keeping this movie, so um, Yeah, it's the full movie. I've got the full movie of The Joy of Sex. And it's a fairly decent copy as well. Um, I just watched this one not too long ago. Christopher Lloyd plays the the physical education coach, um, and the young lady's father. It's great. I love this movie. A lot of people hated it, but I think it's fairly honest. They're not lying. Um, she's worried about dying and dying as a child, and trying to become an adult. And he's trying to get this stuff out of his head because it's all he can think about. I get it. I've been there. Well, not the dying part. But there were periods of my life where I was desperate to be an adult, and because I didn't really understand what that meant.
Hmm.
Um, so I think these films have merit. A lot of people have talked down about them that they're crude. Yes, yes, they're crude. Teenagers are crude.
Hmm.
Well, at least they were in the 1980s.
Oh yeah.
And if there's any indication of American Pie in the 1990s, they were also that way in the 1990s. And cock blockers, they were also that way in the 20 teens. So
Blockers.
blockers.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
I
was
had it
originally supposed to be called cock
right,
blockers, but they
right.
had to take it off, so they just put a rooster on top of the logo that said blockers.
Well, and I was going to mention some other movies that fall into this genre that are
Please.
very funny and worth watching. And you had mentioned American Pie. That's one of them.
Hmm.
Um, Even the sequels have their
Yes.
merits.
Yes.
They're not as good as one.
No.
I think one's really good, two not so much. I think let's see, three is the wedding one, I think.
Yes.
And I think three is really, really good. Um, but that's one that falls into here. Fast Times at Ridgemont High definitely falls into here. Two that kind of skirt the surface, but I think fall on here. Pretty in Pink,
Yes.
Weird Science.
Yes.
And then if you want to get some more current ones, Super Bad.
Super bad.
Um, this one is a parody of all of these, not another teen movie.
Not another teen movie's hysterical.
But my
With Captain America.
yes, a very early Chris Evans, pre-Captain America. But my personal favorite, and it's a more recent one, is The Girl Next Door.
Oh yeah.
I love The
Oh
Girl
yeah.
Next Door.
Oh my
It
God, it's
has
so funny.
the brilliant Timothy Oliphant in it, who plays a brilliant, brilliant character as a porn producer, and he's hysterical in this movie. I mean, absolutely hysterical as his with his. But that one, I mean, The Girl Next Door is a great one and really, really fits into this. If you have not seen any of the ones I mentioned, do see them. But The Girl Next Door, without a doubt, see that one.
Yeah. And you really kind of want to see that there because there's a couple of versions of it. You want to see the
The not
unrated
rated.
version.
You want to see
Yeah.
the not rated version, yeah.
It's yeah, again, it's fairly explicit, but I'll give you guys a breakdown. Basically, this geeky kid who's trying to find his way in the world, just like some of these other characters. His next door neighbor is a porn star,
Hmm.
and she tries to help him, and he takes her to the prom.
Yeah, don't give away that one because that one's new enough and I think worth a watch. Yeah, she moves in next door.
Yep.
As he's
And
in
she
his
takes pity on him. She thinks he's a really sweet kid.
yes. He's in his senior year of high school. He's going for a scholarship and has to come up with this. Um, he has to come up with a speech talking about moral fiber for this
Uh-huh.
scholarship, and just the things he goes through is it's just hysterical,
Yeah.
hysterical. His
And
two geeky friends and
he's trying honestly, what's really sad, this kid is really trying to thread the needle as well as he can.
oh
Because
yeah,
he's got those hormone things going, but at the same time, he has his eyes set on this prize. He is working towards it. He is trying. he's one of those people. He'll be on time, get his stuff done, take care of it, head down, working.
Right.
And then she moves in next door and she's like, dude, you need to relax.
Well, and he's got his two nerdy friends as well,
Uh-huh.
um, which one of them is a sex crazed fool.
Yes. He's like the young boy in The Joy of Sex.
Yes.
It's like,
Um, so anyway, I just had to mention some of those. If you want to see
yeah.
some more modern ones, plus
Yes.
some of the other ones, Fast Times, Weird Science, Pretty in Pink. Those were those were 80s
Mhm.
movies, and those were definitely teen sex comedies.
Yes.
Um, Porky's,
Yeah,
some
they
of the
got real
Patrick.
popular, and especially on video cassette. That's where most of us saw them.
Yeah. And
Um,
Porky's, you're going to get three of them. You're going to get Porky's, which is outstanding.
uh-huh.
Porky's 2, which you could throw out the back door.
Nah,
Um,
I still say Porky's 2 is actually superior to Porky's. I
Porky's
think it's a
2
better
has
storyline.
a couple of good scenes, but I didn't like Porky's 2. 3 is good, but it really kind of rehashes 1
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah, I will say this. We should have had more Porky's, the place in Porky's 2. But
Yes.
oh my God, the scene with the senator. Oh my
Right.
God.
Right. But I mean, these are ones definitely get out there and watch. For us, these were coming of age movies for us.
Mhm.
Um, you really didn't have a whole lot of these pre-80s. You had some minor ones
Yeah.
here and there, but they didn't get the play that some of these did.
No,
John
no, no.
Hughes movies, of course, and
Yeah, and in the 60s and the 70s, going back to the 50s, yes, they wanted to do these films and they talked about it, but they always skirted around landmines,
hmm hmm
basically. So you didn't really get the landmines, which is the heart of these stories.
right.
Because it's not about it's not about sex. It's about relationships. It's about people. It's about how you treat each other. It's not just about feeling good. It's about being right, you know? And all of the rest of that comes with that. But these young people have to take that hero's journey. And what I like about the more modern films is it's not just because it used to just be about the boy, you know. Now with like blockers and stuff like that, it's also about the girl. And it always was, again, which is why I like Joy of Sex, because it's two different perspectives and they're heading towards each other. And you
Well,
can
and that's 8 days a week.
eight
It's
days a
about the
week.
boy and the girl.
Yeah, exactly. Heading towards each other.
Heading towards each other, and then when they eventually um, kind of get together, but not really, but are going towards the same end point and whatnot. Um,
Can't Buy
those
Me
are really
Love is the
good.
same thing.
Yes.
And the big reveal at the end of Can't Buy Me Love is that these groups of people, these groups, these cliques that are so rigid, you find out that just a few years ago they were all friends.
Oh yeah.
When the one kid goes, "Yeah, Ronald Miller, you remember when you fell out of Mickey's treehouse and he carried you?" It's like, oh, why do you
Um,
hate us now? It's like, God, ooh, that's dark.
and this sounds like it's not related, but it is. The movie, the airplane movies and those of that genre are movies where not only do you have to watch the story, but you have to watch what's in the background
Yes.
to see some funny stuff. Not another teen movie is that way.
Oh
There's
yeah.
a lot of stuff in the background that's funny
Hmm.
and also gives homage to different things.
Yes.
The
Macaulay's
not another
Pizza.
teen, yeah, not another teen movie gives a lot of homage to John Hughes in the background.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's
Um,
basically a John Hughes movie on steroids.
ki kind of. I mean, it has a lot of John Hughes. It makes fun of Cruel Intentions, Can't
Hmm.
Buy Me Love, um, Pretty in Pink, Weird Science. Uh,
She's
you
all
know,
that.
She's All That. I mean, that one makes fun of a lot of them, and I think Not Another Teen Movie is very underrated. I
Mhm.
don't think enough people have seen that, and it's honestly for a parody movie, it's brilliant. So
Good stuff. Good
awesome.
stuff.
Well, glad we got to take another trip down there. Appreciate that on that for that. Again, if you want to get some more nerdery, we do have our exclusive episodes. This was one of them, and you can get the expanded episode with that of different movies that Zig talked about. Um, and so for me, as we step over to the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
I chose a recent topic, and I thought this was one I wanted to bring forward because as I did it for our exclusive, um, I kind of had a little bit of regrets. I was like, man, I really want more people to hear this one
Uh-huh.
because I think this is one that needs to get out there because I think people, especially when we talk about some of the dangers that are out there, I think this is a very poignant one. Is that the word I'm looking for? Poignant?
Yes. Yes. That's exactly.
Make sure I got
Poignant
the word
fits.
right.
Yeah. Poignant
A
fits.
poignant one that I thought really needed to get to a broader audience. So this is why I picked this one to bring it out. Um, for today, I got my information off Click to Houston, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, Wikipedia, Medium, CBS News, and The Independent. And this is the murder of Bianca Devins.
Bianca Devins.
So this was only 5 years ago, and really kind of talks about some of the bad that can happen from social media.
Mm-hmm.
On July 14th, 2019, Bianca Devins, she was a 17-year-old Instagram model. She was murdered by one of her followers, Brandon Andrew Clark, who recorded the entire killing on social media and released it. Um, Bianca considered Brandon her friend, and she and Brandon went to a concert in New York City in July of 2019, but she never returned home. Brandon Clark was filled with jealousy, and he carefully plotted her murder. He recorded her death, took photographs of her body, and then he attempted suicide. Following the crime itself, pictures of Bianca Devon's body went viral on social media, which tortured her family, and the incel community praised Clark online for killing a woman who had rejected him. And this was one that I had to look up because I had never heard incel before
Oh
and
yeah.
found this from Merriam-Webster online. And this is a person, usually a man, who regards himself or herself as being involuntarily celibate and typically expresses extreme resentment and hostility towards those who are sexually active. The term incels emerged from a Reddit group in which tens of thousands of users, most of them young men, commiserate about their lack of sexual activity, many of them placing the blame on women. In
Yeah.
recent
It's
year,
it's
go
it's
ahead.
their fault. I'm a shithead.
Yes, yes. And this is another reason I wanted to bring this one out to a larger audience. I think people need to be aware of these incels because I think they're dangerous. I think they're very dangerous.
Yeah. Some of them are. Some of them
Yes,
are exceedingly dangerous.
yes. In recent years, a number of these men have identified as so-called incels, who've identified as so-called incels, have an online subculture of men who express rage at women for denying them sex and frequently fantasize about violence and celebrate mass shooters in their online discussion groups.
Yep.
Many incel communities are characterized by resentment and hatred, self-pity, racism, misogyny, and misanthropy. Discussions often revolve around the belief that men are entitled to sex. Other common topics include idleness, loneliness, unhappiness, suicide, sexual surrogates, and prostitutes, as well as attributes that they believe increase one's desirability as a partner, such as income or personality. So that's an
Oh,
incel.
hold on.
Yeah.
What's also weird about these guys is they have very, very high aesthetic standards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That and it's like, dude, well, she's a and most of the time it revolves around social status,
Yep.
which is again, you're talking about young men, especially men in high school. Everything is about social. Oh yeah, she's the hottest girl in school. And as a young man, um, this is the first time because of things like this. This was the first time I realized people were just talking noise because they thought that's what they were supposed to do. I probably about 15, 16 when this thought had occurred to me. Um, she's the hottest girl in school. And I'm looking, I'm like, is she though? Because homegirl over here, you know, and it's because of that social hierarchy. You are more attractive because of that. And these dudes get hung, and women too. There are women incels
Hmm.
get
Just not
hung
as
up.
common.
No, not it's not common at all. But they get hung up on all of that as well. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
just I'm sorry. I didn't mean to derail you. Please go
No,
ahead.
you didn't. You're fine. I mean, all good points. All good points. Um, Bianca's murder did receive considerable attention from the press and social media. There were photos of her corpse that were taken by Brandon Clark that were shared widely online, which sparked both mockery and sympathy.
Mm-hmm.
Social media companies' responses were subject to criticism, which led to the introduction of legislation. And commentators have discussed the unique nature of the crime and its relation to the structure of social media. So, Bianca Michelle Devins was born on October 2nd, 2001, and raised in Utica, New York. Is that Utica or Utica? Utica?
Utica.
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 I think I asked that in the exclusive too, and I didn't remember.
It's Utica.
This is a small town located about 5 hours drive north of New York City. She grew up in a very difficult household and began to battle mental illness at an early age. She started seeing a therapist for separation anxiety when she was 9, and she started to struggle with depression when she was 13. She had spent time in and out of the hospital receiving mental health treatment. And Bianca was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder at the age of 16. She began spending more time online where she quote could just escape her own mental struggle. Her mother had said this, Kim, and she had turned an online persona known as e-girl. Bianca began building a small following on numerous platforms, including Tumblr, Instagram, Snapchat, Discord, and 4chan, also a very dangerous platform.
Mm-hmm.
An article from Rolling Stone in 2019 claims that Bianca drew a number of male, quote, orbiters as followers on the internet. And once again, I had to go back to the dictionary because I was like, what the hell's an orbiter? So orbiters are men who follow young women online, requesting pictures, offering them money, and even requesting to meet in real life. Rania Mancarius, who's CEO of Crime Stoppers Houston, said, quote, it might seem harmless. It's a picture of a skirt and a top or shorts and a shirt. It grows into something. They can turn violent. They can turn mob-like. There can be an infatuation with the young girl that turns into hatred towards the girl. After having at least one in-person encounter, Bianca spent years running away from home and receiving serious mental health therapy at various facilities. For Bianca and her family, things had started to calm down despite these turbulent years, and she later met Brandon Andrew Clark, who was another orbiter in the spring of 2019. Brandon was born October 6th, 1997, and his childhood was traumatic. He once witnessed his father holding his mother at knife point for several hours. And upon meeting
4 years
Brandon,
older than her.
yeah,
Okay.
and
So
upon
she's like
meeting,
18,
she was 17 at the time.
17. Okay.
Yep. Upon meeting Brandon, Bianca's mother Kim said that he, quote, seemed very nice and was polite. In 2019, Brandon and Bianca connected on Instagram immediately became friends. She wasn't interested in dating and was getting ready to head off to college when they had a brief relationship. Even though Clark insisted on calling him her boyfriend, Kim didn't think much of him. She recalled to Kim recalled to CBS News that when Brandon came around, and he came around pretty often, he just looked like a goofy, nerdy boy next door. Police described their friendship as a personally intimate one, but friends and family claimed otherwise. Bianca told her mother that she had explained to Brandon that she did not want to date him, though Bianca's mother thought that he still wanted more. One of Bianca's sisters called Brandon a trusted family friend, but a friend of Bianca's feared that Brandon was exploiting Bianca sexually while the two were under the influence of drugs. Reportedly, Brandon would supply drugs to Bianca to entice her to spend more time with him.
Huh.
Kim said
Did
she
they
was,
say what drugs?
they did not. None of the articles I read did. Kim said she was really happy that Brandon and Bianca were going to a Dollenganger concert in New York City in July.
Hmm.
And Kim, quote, took a little comfort in knowing that she would be with Brandon because I trusted him.
Yeah.
However, 21-year-old Brandon had already begun to plan Bianca's murder. He had created a to-do list and looked up things on Google, such as how to choke someone out and how can one kill someone by striking the carotid artery.
Wow.
He put his plan into action after the show. He was feeling resentful of Bianca for turning him down and furious that she had kissed another guy at the concert. So Brandon took her to a dead-end street close to her home. He attached a camera to the car's front vent as Bianca slept in the back seat, and he hid a knife on the vehicle's right side. He woke her up and then questioned her over the kiss and told her that an apology was not enough. Eventually, Brandon began assaulting her and later sliced her neck with a long knife that had been hidden by his seat. Bianca died in the early morning hours of July 14th. As he had planned, Brandon staged the scene after killing Bianca. Test Drive by Joji, don't know, was a song about a relationship in which one person is more invested than the other, and it was played repeatedly while Brandon built a bonfire. He wrote, "May you never forget me" on the ground with spray paint, referring to some gloomy Japanese comic novels he had read with Bianca. And
Uzumaki.
I'm sorry?
Uzumaki.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Didn't say. He also uploaded a terrifying picture to Bianca's Discord channel at 6:03 a.m. And the message said, "You're going to have to find someone else to orbit." And then he put a graphic picture of Bianca's corpse and followed it with "Sorry fuckers." So the Utica
Utica.
police department began receiving a lot of worried phone calls about the photo from all across the
Oh,
country.
bet.
Well, yeah, because it went viral. It
Yeah.
went viral immediately. Brandon did call numerous family members, and his call resembled a suicide note, which prompted his family to call 911. And then Brandon himself gave the police a call stating, "My name is Brandon. The victim is Bianca Michelle Devins. I'm not going to stay on the phone for long because I need to do the suicide part of the murder suicide." And then let police know where he was. By this point, Brandon had already shared a few more images of Bianca's body online with her family. By the time the police arrived on location, he was sending stuff to her family too. That just
Yeah.
awful.
So I'm just trying to get the timeline together. So he basically killed her, starts
Hmm.
posting stuff, builds a bonfire, scores. So this is all happening within minutes, less than an hour.
Less than an hour. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, hey, good to the Utica Police Department for responding quickly because less than an hour is a pretty good response time.
Well, I mean, he called them. I mean, there was
Yeah.
911 calls, and then he called them himself and told them where he was. So
Yeah. So they were already out looking for him.
probably,
Yeah.
I would suspect so at that point. He did attempt to upload a photo of his failed suicide attempt. He snapped a photo, stabbed himself with a knife, and posted to social media with the comment "ashes to ashes." But there was an officer that was coming near to him at the time, and Brandon survived. However, pictures of Bianca continued to spread. When the hashtag RIP Bianca hashtag initially appeared on Twitter, pictures of her body quickly went viral, all on Discord, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and other platforms. They gained traction on the website 4chan, of course they did, with hundreds of posts praising Brandon for committing another 4chan murder. 4chan was kind of, I don't even know if 4chan still exists. Maybe it does. 4chan was real bad for um, populating terrorist stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
It's really sad because 4chan started out about people talking about nerdy subjects.
yeah.
That
Well,
depresses me how quickly that went away.
and I mean, and eventually I think it was moved to 8chan,
Hmm.
which was another one, but I think that one started getting corrupt as well. So I don't, and I don't know. I don't know if either are still around. I was never on either one of those. There were users on incel.co and 8chan that I'd mentioned a minute ago that were also celebratory of these pictures, and her murder was turned into a vile meme by some. There was a poll that was posted online regarding whether or not Bianca deserved to die, and one user replied, "Hell yes," while another said, "No, I am a simp." Accounts promised to post images of Bianca's murder in exchange for likes and follows. An illegitimate fundraising website sprang up to capitalize on her name and death.
Wow.
The initial online discussion of the murder was marred by misinformation, and rumors were spread by users. Tweets from prominent Twitter users, one of which was shared over 16,000 times, identified Clark as an incel, despite evidence to the contrary. Speculation on the crime's nature was rampant. Users on Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit examined Devins' history and sought to explain the murder. This is the part that I think disturbed me the most. Other people, including Bianca's younger sister, constantly showed her family the picture of the body.
Hmm.
And as I read that,
Okay. The sister is probably trying to process the grief. I'll give the younger sister time. She's trying to process the grief. Why anybody else would show the family that, I do not understand.
I don't understand. I don't understand the sister either. I can't. I just don't. I mean, why? The family does not want to see these murder. Show pictures of when she was alive.
I again, you're talking about someone whose older sister, probably hero, uh, died. You want anything you can of them.
See, and
Again,
I read it differently. I read that so differently. I read it as
no,
she was doing it to be an ass.
no,
I
no. I
mean,
think
that's
I
how I
think
read it.
well, yeah, I don't think that's correct. I think that's that kid trying to process that. So the younger sister, I get. Everybody else, no, that's wrong. That's wrong.
I don't get the younger sister. I really don't. Like I said, showing her pictures of when she was alive, trying to process, but to continually show pictures of the body.
Again, I'm not in that kid's shoes, so I don't.
And I'm not either. I'm saying I don't understand it.
Yes,
I
yes,
I I don't know.
yeah,
There was one person that even mentioned it in a Facebook remark on her mother's page.
yeah. No, all the rest
Um,
of those people can screw off.
right.
You bunch of freaking towny weirdos.
Well, Kim said to CBS News, quote, "They were sent to me. They were sent to a number of Bianca's close relatives. It's terrifying. It's upsetting to witness others telling you that their daughter, this is my baby, deserves such a terrible ending to her life."
Mm-hmm.
Um, Experts describe this an example of psychological terrorism. Kim additionally said to Rolling Stone that social media sites like Instagram had provided an inadequate reaction. The pictures remained online for weeks, and after when they were removed, new ones were promptly replaced them. Kim further told CBS News, quote, "The social platforms are overstating what they did and how quickly they had taken it down." Instagram and Facebook did remove Clark's account and attempted to stop the photo spread. Facebook added images to the murder to a digital fingerprint database and blacklisted the hashtag Yes Juliet. The Discord server that Brandon Clark utilized was shut down, and users who attempted to report the photos on Instagram found that they were not considered violations of community guidelines. Instagram's response was met with criticism. It was reported that some images stayed on Instagram for as long as 4 days. Bianca's mother claimed that by September, the images could still be found on Facebook. Prosecutors in the trial said that the images could still be found months later. Hanny Farid, who is a scholar of digital forensics and image analysis, claimed that Instagram and other companies had the tools to deal with the spread and that their inaction bordered on the criminal, despite a tricky legal perspective saying otherwise. Bianca's funeral was planned by her family a few weeks after she passed away. There, they remembered her as the cheerful little girl who adored Pink and her cat Belle. She intended to study psychology, which I find ironic, in college as she had experienced mental health problems herself and wanted to help others. But pictures of her kept getting around all this time, and her murderer was getting ready for his trial. Brandon Clark entered a plea of guilty to the murder of Bianca Devins in February 2020. During the trial, he attempted to change his plea to not guilty, despite having said that he wanted to protect Bianca's family from viewing photos and video of her death. Kim believes that he desired the extra attention the trial would bring. His plea was turned down, and he received a sentence of 25 years to life on March 16th, 2021. He was later charged with promoting prison contraband after a corrections officer found a shiv constructed out of a sharpened toothbrush in his cell. According to Bianca's mother, Brandon composed a letter to a friend around this time that saw him bragging and noting how it felt to kill. This letter reportedly explained his motive, quote, he couldn't handle the thought of her walking out of his life. He has since expressed remorse for his actions, stating, quote, I despise myself for my actions. I really apologize for putting all you through this. I really apologize for putting Bianca through this. I wish I could just apologize to her and offer my sincere regrets. However, there isn't much that the family of Bianca can do about Brandon Clark's sentence, which means there's a chance he'll be out of jail in his 40s. However, they may try to change the internet. Kim Devins, according to The Independent, hopes that no one else will ever experience what happened to Bianca and their family, and she's advocated for the repeal of Section 230, which declared that social media platforms are not responsible for the content posted on them. They are seen as effectively neutral. This argument does come somewhat unstuck when you factor in the algorithms behind such social media networks, and I agree with this because those algorithms are good, are
Yeah, they are.
really good. You
Yeah,
look
they are.
up one thing on Google, you're going to see ads for it on Facebook that day.
Yep.
You go out with a group of friends, and if your phone is near, I'm going to guarantee you, talk about something you're looking to buy and see if Facebook doesn't have some ads for it that day.
That's right.
Check it out. You don't even have to search for it. Talk to somebody. It's all listening. This is not a conspiracy thing. I'm not being a weirdo conspiracy nut.
Yeah.
This is a
It's
fact.
where it's
Try it.
heuristic algorithms.
Yes.
They connect the dots very easily, and they want to sell you stuff. That's
Yes.
how they make money.
Yes.
You know, it's
Um,
basically tailor-made advertising.
hmm And they're very good at it. They're
Oh yeah.
extremely good at it. Um, so
Oh my
YouTube and
God. You're doing all this research. I would hate to see the ads you get.
oh, I don't get any ads for murders or anything like that. I really don't. But you know, any minor thing I mention, it just I see it. I see it that day. It doesn't even take a whole day. If you Google something on Google and immediately go to Facebook, you will see ads immediately for what you
Uh-huh.
search for immediately. Um, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, just for example, will take into account the kind of videos you view and suggest that you watch more content like that. They're
Yep.
very good at that too. You
Yes, they
start to
are.
watch a certain type of video and you will see them over and over and over
Oh
again.
yeah. Yeah. Look, well, some of our TikTok videos, 1,000 people will view one, and then the next one only 30 people will view. Those
hmm
30 people, the next one I do that's got a bunch of views on it, those 30 people will be in it.
hmm
The one that the next one after that I do, I may not get very many views, but those 30 people will be in it.
hmm Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, and we do TikToks every day um, for the show. So if you didn't know, check it out.
Well, and these algorithms can send you down an increasingly radical rabbit hole. I do
Oh
it
yeah.
all the time. I'm watching videos on YouTube or TikTok or whatnot, and before I know it, an hour has passed because
Yes.
I've just been zombified
Yes.
watching funny videos.
Yes. Brain
Um,
candy.
you know, I I talk so many times over the past several month, year, whatever, that I play golf almost every day. I get golf videos all the time,
Hmm.
showing different ways to golf, and I see funny golf videos and everything like that. There's a guy that I watch that he does these little jokes about funny signs and his stuff will all appear up constantly, even though I saw him once, and a lot of it too. If you see a video and you go past it real quick,
Hmm.
the algorithm notes that. Then when you watch a video and watch it intently, the algorithm notices that too. And so it figures out what you like to watch and will show you more stuff that you liked versus the stuff that you moved past. It's very wild. It's very
Yeah.
wild.
You can also use those buttons to skip this. You
Hmm.
skip that, you'll stop getting those.
Yes. Yeah. Um, so this argument is what the families are who are bringing two cases to the Supreme Court in both Gonzalez versus Google and Tamna versus Twitter. Families of those who were murdered by ISIS terrorists argue that their relatives were put at risk by those algorithms. One case concerns radicalization through Twitter, and the other radicalization via YouTube videos, which Google's the parent company of YouTube.
Hmm.
Kim Devins sees the distinct parallels between the ideologies of ISIS terrorists detailed in the case and incels who advocate for murderous violence against women. She says she experiences the continued sharing of the graphic imagery of Bianca as psychological terrorism, and she has been campaigning for Section 230 to be overturned for a while now. Kimberly has actually campaigned ceaselessly since Bianca's murder. She worked to have Bianca's law passed, which was signed into law in December of 2022, which forbade the posting of graphic photos of crime victims online in New York. Kim told The Independent, quote, I guess I just had an immediate mother's instinct of like, we need to fix this. And my first instinct is to defend my daughter's honor. After her death, she was being taken advantage of all over the internet, and I simply wasn't comfortable with it. I'm a fighter. I just had this advocacy instinct. This can't happen to another family. Critics, however, have argued that if 230 is overturned, it would change the internet as we know it. They argue it's an essential freedom that will be taken away if social networks are forced to heavily regulate the content on their platforms. But heavy regulation isn't what Kim Devins wants. She simply wants to live in a world where faceless misogynists can't share images of her daughter's body with impunity.
Exactly.
So be informed on 230. Um, I think there's a good side to it. I think there's a bad side to it. I think that they should have to regulate the content because I think there's a difference between what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And I'm not talking about the difference between nudity or not nudity, porn or
Well, yeah,
not.
but
I'm not talking that.
the problem with that is who decides what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. We can all agree that showing this girl's dead body is inappropriate.
And that's what I'm talking about right there.
Yeah,
That's inappropriate.
yeah,
Showing somebody's murder is inappropriate. Showing somebody's dead body, I think, is inappropriate. And so that's where I think there's good and bad to this, and I
yeah.
think you have to weigh
We
this very
if that's
carefully.
where we're drawing the line, I'm foursquare
Exactly.
behind that. Yeah,
Exactly. But I'm not going to draw the line. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to piss anybody off or offend anybody, but I'm not going to draw the line at boobs,
boobs. Yeah,
or overt sexualness or whatever.
yeah.
I think people should have the freedom to that. You know, there's a whole group out there of women who are very intentionally showing their bare breasts
Hmm.
just before they nurse
Hmm.
because they're trying to get out there that this is not inappropriate.
Yeah,
Um, you
and
know,
it's perfectly acceptable in different parts of the world.
sure, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
if it's okay for a man to be topless, it's okay for a woman to be topless. Most cases, men can't be bottomless, neither can women.
Right. That argument's been out there for a long time.
Hmm.
You know, why can men do it and women can't?
Exactly.
You know, but anyway, so just know about 230 and understand it in case it ever comes up for a vote in your area and you're voting for or against it. At least understand what they're saying
Hmm.
and read whatever they're trying to do with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
The Devins family did start a scholarship in Bianca's name for students pursuing psychology degrees. I think this is awesome.
Nice,
In
nice.
early 2020, Bianca's friends and family held the B Gala to celebrate her life, showcasing artwork she had made and raise funds for the scholarship. In July of 2021, Bianca's family sued the Oneida County District Attorney's Office, accusing them of distribution of child pornography. They had learned from producers of documentaries on the murder that they had received from the district attorney's office footage of Bianca's death and of her having sex, as well as the contents of her phone, which included nude photos. allegedly a YouTube blogger was also given these in response to a Freedom of Information request. And the Devins family does say that they still, to this day, receive graphic photos of Bianca's
Oh my
murder.
God.
It's just
Oh my
sick.
dear Lord.
It's
Yeah,
just sick.
poor people.
But that's the story of the murder of Bianca Devins.
Well, thank you very much for that. Again,
Well,
I love how in this episode it's actually a little different from in both our cases
yeah,
than the exclusive. So people can actually get more of the story, but from a different angle.
right, right, absolutely,
We should do
absolutely.
more of these.
We might do these from time to time, maybe once a year or something. We'll pick something out of our exclusives and throw it out here. We might do something like that in the future. We'll see how that goes. But like I said, I just felt this was a good opportunity to throw this out there, especially because, like I said, it was this murder that I had the regrets of not giving it out to our wider audience, that I decided, hey, you know what, this might be a time to go ahead and
Yeah.
feature it for everybody. So
Well, and yeah, I wanted to get the teen sex comedy stuff out there too. I mean, it's like, oh man, you guys don't sleep on this. Even
yeah,
though it's a rough category, it's not a rough movie.
yeah, no, absolutely. Cool. Well, that will take us to the end of another recording week. We appreciate all of you sticking around with us and listening to what we talked about today. You can find more information about us on nerderymurdery.com. That's our hub for everything about us. You can see some pictures of us as well as pictures from what we talked about in this episode. You'll find links to what we talked about, as well as uh, updates to our link to our YouTube page, which Zig so often updates.
Yes, definitely check this YouTube page out. Again, you may not be able to see the whole movie of Last American Virgin for a while. It may be available. Search for it. But I do have some great scenes for it, and I've got the whole movie of The Joy of Sex. You should sit down and watch that. It's fun.
That's cool. So yeah, I appreciate all the work you do on that. That's really good stuff that you put out there constantly, all the time. I love the stuff that you do on that.
Oh, thanks,
Um,
man.
on our page, just I want to toot our own horn for just a minute.
Okay.
Um, on our front page, I put some other links in there. We got ranked on Good Pods. And I thought this was really cool on the Good Pods website that features, all kinds of podcasts from around
Oh,
the
look at
world.
that. I didn't know you
We,
put that on our front
I did.
page.
We got ranked number 3 in the top 100 for nerd culture podcast of all time.
Nice.
Number 9 in the top 100 indie theater all-time chart. Number
Nice.
17 in the top 100 theater all-time chart. Number
Nice.
35 in the top 100 indie pop culture all-time chart. And number 86 in the top 100 pop culture all-time chart. So, what that says is we're favorites of people because of Zig. We're not in any of the true crime ones, so
Give it time. There's a lot of true crime stuff out there.
there is. True crime is huge out there. I'm not saying we're exclusive by that of any means. I think we're very unusual in our combination of
Yeah,
our show, and a lot of
nobody does
people
what
when
we
when I
do.
talk to them, they're like, "Wow, that's a very interesting combination."
Mhm. Nobody
But
does what we do, and a lot of people are like, "That's kind of weird." I'm like, "Yeah, but it works," and they're
we're
like, "Oh my
it's
God, it
it,
fucking works."
it's the light in the dark. It's the light in
It's
the dark. But a lot of credit to Zig because all those are all about the nerdery side, and I just thought that was really cool. So I posted that on
not
our
many
website.
people do stuff on live theater, and I'm like, "Why not?
Yeah.
No, why not? We need to talk about this. We need to get this out because live theater is fucking awesome."
But number 3 in nerd culture. That's awesome.
Yes, number three.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so check that out. On our website, you can also find the link to our merchandise page, where if you wish to show off your nerdery and murdery fandom, please do consider doing that. You can also find the link to our Patreon. So if you want to find more episodes like the subjects we talked about today, get extra episodes early, you can find the link to our Patreon. Our patrons help with the costs that are associated with the show. It does cost to keep our show going with the uploads, the storage, the producing, everything like that. So, please do consider becoming a patron. That, along with our merchandise, really helps us along with the show. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. And last but not least, something completely free you can do is go out there and give us a 5-star review wherever you can. It really helps us and helps others find the topic that may be looking for the content that we talk about. So with that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Jeffrey with your murdery.
Cue the music.